Alright, with the prologue out of the way, we move on to part 1 of The Suffering, the Ties That Bind. A much bigger emphasis on story in this one. We start off with our Coast Guard and the boat that we left off in the first Suffering game. So, we are actually just in the same situation as before. We started off with the good beginning, just to hold continuity with the playthrough that we did in the beginning. So, if you start off with neutral or evil, you have different intros here. Neutral will have Torque driving the boat with the guard unconscious, and the evil beginning will actually just have Torque on Carnate. So, this is the good intro. Like I said, just to have continuity with the old one. I played both of these via good old games, so the whole situation with the good morality and all of that actually carries over with those versions. So it is a pretty neat little thing. But here, we get a little bit more of the backstory on Torque. Kind of gives him a little bit of ambiguity, but pushes along why all these monsters and stuff are there. And poor Torque still doesn't have shoes. He took them off in the prison in the beginning of the first Suffering and never got another pair.
What's the situation? Doesn't matter, we just need to get him inside ASAP. This guy is the Prime. Really? Him? Positive. Jordan's waiting for him. With me. 1, 2...
But yeah, they refer to Torque as the Prime. One can assume that that means that he is the cause of all of the stuff that's happening. So we do get a little bit more on him. And we do have a bit of an interactive intro. We can look around and see all of the special unit forces here, who are obviously ex-military / mercenary workers now. So we are dealing with some extreme kind of Black Ops sort of stuff here, which would make sense. The malefactors, or the enemies of this game, as they're referred to as malefactors, are actually known about, and these people are the ones that deal with them. But at the same time, Torque is a particular trigger for the events.
How many specimens your squad bring back? Specimens? Are we supposed to be bringing back specimens? Shit. Jordan's gonna shoot you up.
So yeah, these guys are kind of collecting and studying the malefactors.
Echo unit, departure in 1 minute.
And Torque just happens to be an unlucky bastard and be one of the prime subjects for study, all things considered.
Your official welcoming committee will be here in just a minute. The chatter. She wouldn't want us talking to him.
Welcome back to reality. I'm sorry about these restraints. I hope they're not too tight. You'll agree with your issues.
I want to say that the Suffering, or at least the sequel, took some inspiration from Half-Life, to say the least. This game came out in 2005, and Half-Life 2 came out around 2004. So, they probably wanted to get a bit more story going, and a bit more interactivity, a bit more cinematics. So, I would like to think that that was a cause of this. It's not really confirmed or anything, but that is just an observation. So, could be very likely. Could just be that they wanted to be more showy, a bit more upfront with the story.
Right? Good. If he gets out, you will suffer. Count on it.
So yeah, as you can guess, stuff is going to shit, as always. Good old Torque always seems to be on the good end of things. And of course, we're the only thing left alive in this room, so. But we pick up our shoulder holster and radio. And we do have another morality decision in this lab over here. If we so choose, we can just eliminate the scientists. But since we're going for the good playthrough, we're not going to do anything evil. We just want to leave them alone, let them do their doctoring things, and we can go on our way.
Was it an explosion? What's the plan? We just gotta get over there. Move, move, move! Hey, who's that guy? I don't know, but he isn't the biggest problem we got. Let's keep moving.
But yeah, the boys seem to be having their hands full at the moment, so we're just going to take advantage of that and get out of this warehouse.
The creatures broke free, didn't they? I knew this would happen. No one knows. We're directed from doing this to secure the sewer entrance. Let's move.
But instead of Hermes and Horus in this one, we do have two other particular interesting folks that show up. So, we do get our first weapon, which is, or second weapon technically, first ranged weapon of the main game. So, we will be having to use that pretty shortly, and we will get visions of Carmen, as well as Corey and Michael, so. We're going to be experiencing a lot of different story beats from the first one. Instead of just Carnate being the source of evil, it's just evil in general.
So pretty.
So, instead of Carnate, we're actually in Baltimore. I can't speak personally for experience of Baltimore, but it seems like a place that has a bit of trouble every now and then, bit of a troubled past, bit of tensions, so it's a pretty decent setting for the suffering. Again, I can't ever really confirm that because I've never been to Baltimore, but from what I hear in media, it does seem to be a place of high tension as well as troubled kind of history, so it seems like an interesting setting compared to Carnate. But we're just in the sewers, getting some spooks. They do set up a few things to try and spook you, but again, we have Copperfield and some maulers, the dogs that are with him. The enemy type is called the mauler, for the fact that they maul people. I mean, it's it's pretty creative. But Copperfield, will explain more of him as we go, as well as the Creeper, also known as Luther Stickwell. Both of them are kind of main antagonists in this one. Yeah, I don't know why they put this guy so close to this locked cabinet, but they did, so. But yeah, we start getting some freaky visions, just a bunch of stuff that's kind of odd. You can also do morality decisions, just getting rid of normal civilians as you go, so if you do, that's your choice, but we're going for a good playthrough, so I'm just going to try and leave everyone alone that I can. Here we can actually see that the Burrower has a redesign. They have lights attached to them. And apparently the connotation with them is that they are based on Irish workers back during earlier years that built the tunnel system in Baltimore and were buried alive in it at times. Not too entirely sure on the historical accuracy of that. Again, never been to Baltimore, so anything that I have is hearsay. So, might take a little bit of researching on your own, but I haven't really looked anything up about it. but that is what they say in this game, so.
What about you?
Kind of see a trace of them.
And again, we won't have certain enemies appearing in this game. We do have the Burrowers make a return, Slayers make a return. All things that can do with gang violence or anything in particular in an urban area, like arsonists. We won't see Festers or Infernas because they had to do with particular parts of Carnate, so they wouldn't really fit lore-wise into the story. So we won't be seeing them. We also won't be seeing the original mainliners or the Hangman. The mainliners now have been redone to be reskinned along with the marksman to have to do with urban drug use, which from stories and media is apparently a heavy thing in Baltimore, but the marksmen have to do with guards that are attacking you, like the Black Ops people
I remember being
currently.
so happy at how good you were doing with the boys. And I think I know who took that all away from us.
But we do have another ranged enemy in particular, just like the marksmen. They represent gun violence in urban areas, so it is an interesting change of enemies to fit the setting. But here we just have our notes from Miles and Carmen. Miles was our friend from the prison in the beginning, and Carmen is Torque's wife. So we just have to read over what they wrote down in our notes here, and then Carmen will start telling us.
You know what I learned from this tea? You knew. Blackmore told you he
We
was
do
gonna
get
kill
quite a
us.
bit
What did you
extra
do?
backstory about Carmen and the
Called
kids,
him the Colonel for a reason, because they
and Carmen
followed
does
his
like
orders.
chewing Torque out
And you
quite a
did
bit.
nothing. You might as well have killed us
She even got the
yourself.
head wag and all of that going on, so you know he really messed up. And again, alluding back to the first game, Torque starts seeing visions of his family taken from him. Since we did the good ending, Torque didn't do it himself, but if you did the bad ending, Torque was responsible for all of the stuff that happened to them. And the neutral ending, it was actually his son that kills his wife and his other son after being sold drugs from Blackmore. So, two of the endings have to do with Torque, technically, but the last one, his hands are free, in a sense. But we do have a return of Killjoy.
That fool tried to play me? Think he's too good for my game? Too bad for him, I'm the one who writes the rules. I'm going to show him what his life can be like alone.
And again, Michael Clark Duncan, really good voice actor, really good actor. Sadly, isn't around anymore. I believe he passed away in 2012, but he did leave quite a legacy for about a decade and a half's worth of work, so. And he is probably one of my most recognized voice actors that I hear. So, he left quite the impression on me, enough to recognize him at anything that he does, so.
I'm gonna be sick.
But here we have the cops actually discovering us after the events that happened to the family. So we find out how Torque actually ends up being incarcerated in Carnate. But yeah, everything starts falling apart at the seams here. We have an arsonist that's setting the building on fire. We have slayers. We have people just kind of trying to not die. Guys huddled in the corner. This game has some pretty dark themes, so. And it only gets worse as it goes. And being that the place is very tension against police and minorities, as well as drug-riddled, it's quite tough subjects, along with the monsters, so... In fact, one of the missions that we have later on is to escort a drug addict to his stash to help him, so... And that is actually good morality. We do need to escort Kyle to his stash later on to get the good morality. And it features a very, very gruesome self-inflicted taking to the farm, so...
So it looks like your luck to come up short. Hey, you hear that?
Here we have a morality decision though, but we definitely want to save the guy on the ground, so we get rid of the two guys that are threatening him with weapons and save him. But again, they tried to be a bit more cinematic with this one. You definitely get some more flashy cutscenes than the original. And the models got bumped up to look more detailed. So it is pretty interesting. And again, we have limited ammo in this one. The first one, we had tons of ammo, never really had to worry about anything. This one, you'll actually be finding yourself running out of bullets quite a bit more often. So, you do have to make them count, and melee weapons do help. In particular, I never used melee weapons a whole lot, but they are still a decent alternative.
Are you okay? I'm still breathing. Thanks for saving. I'll open up some lockers in the shop for you. Take whatever you want. We won't be needing it now. We all be damned to the hellfire anyway. Let's get out of here.
And they do have some interesting, fun dialogue. But there we can see we did the good morality decision because Carmen didn't chastise us, she actually praised us. So, it's a pretty good indicator if your wife tells you that you did a good job, both in this game and in real life. So, if Carmen praises you for your work, then just know that you made the good morality decision.
To the Grand Theater, and I'll show you a thing or two about acting the part.
So Killjoy is actually kind of our guide in this one. He lets us know where we need to go, that sort of thing. But the guy said that he left some lockers unlocked, so we can go ahead and pick out what he gave us here. And there's Copperfield. Again, it's not like Horace or Hermes in this one. We actually have Copperfield and Luther Stickwell, or the Creeper, so we do have some pretty interesting characters, to say the least, in this one. The Creeper is definitely living up to his name, and Copperfield is certainly an interesting character, given the whole history. Seems to be quite tied to this place in particular.
Put down the devils. Wait, Torque? Do you recognize your old neighbor?
But here, we have Hijira.
Salam alaikum, my brother. I read about your trial. Sounded like another case of the
He's a pretty decent dude, so we're just gonna escort him to where he needs to go. You actually need to complete the mission with the people that you're escorting this one to get the story beats. If you flat out kill them, then that counts as evil. If you escort them where they need to go, then that counts as good. But if you just kind of ignore them, then you get neutral. So, since we're doing the good playthrough, we will need to escort these guys where they need to go to complete their storylines. Which for Hijira here, we need to take him to his hideout, where he's supposed to meet up with his friends. And we need to get him all the way there, so we do need to make sure that he stays in a relatively alive state to get to where he needs to go. And again, in this game, we actually can't carry around health, so we do want to be very mindful of how much that we have at all points. We do regen a little bit, but we still want to keep it as high as we can. And Hijira is actually a really good NPC companion to have. Because he has a double barrel, he actually destroys stuff that comes your way. Which we will eventually get that weapon as well, but Hijira as an NPC is a really decent guy to have in your company. So even if you don't like taking him along for the good morale, you can actually lead him most of the way through his mission and then get rid of him. So it is an option. Over here at this wall, we're just waiting for a scripted scene. So easy enough, we just let the Slayer bust through the wall and then take it out.
He has shown us the way. We can reach the shelter by traveling through the canal.
Again, this game does touch on some interesting subjects. You can probably tell at this point that there's going to be a lot of minority figures in this, like Hijira. Torque himself is actually Hispanic, I believe. I may be wrong on that, but I believe he's supposed to be. Carmen was African American. Most of the characters in this, like Miles, are also African American.
Did you hear that?
So
It sounded like something.
there is a interesting mix of ethnic groups, to say the least. But Hijira here is actually starting to tell us about the story of the Gorger.
My mother told us a story about creatures called gorges.
But here we get the backstory on the monster itself.
I have avoided this vile place.
This meat sure is fun. Hey, Reverend, where'd you get this from?
Lord works in mysterious ways.
God, it's Reverend, we trusted you!
It had to be something, my friends. Or we'd
We're
all
all gonna
die.
burn in hell for this!
That creature! It's a gorger!
So again, the Gorgers kind of have a tie in-game to where in the Depression, in the Baltimore area in particular, they were having troubles finding food to keep them alive. So they ended up eating people in order to survive. Not that everyone agreed to it. It was one particular preacher that was serving people to other people, so
My brother's not have made it.
they were kind of not really guilty of eating people,
Brother Torque.
while at the same time they were.
That person. Bring about the resolution
So,
you need by any means.
it's a bit of a dark backstory for a monster,
Safe here. Salam
but they are interesting. But this is actually the last monster that we need to get rid of, and then Hijira's side quest is complete.
For him, T.
So as you can see, as soon as we get rid of that Gorger, Carmen compliments us on being a good person. So that was our good morality for Hijira done. But if you do want to do bad morality, you can just get rid of Hijira right before you get rid of the Gorger that drops down on the balcony.
I will help you to get inside.
But here shortly we're going to have our introduction to the Arsonist,
My valuable time.
which is kind of self-explanatory. Urban arsonists have been a thing for a time, so they are based on the actual arsonists or people of the urban areas. They kind of work like infernos. They're a lot more reluctant to leave fire trails and stuff. They do leave a tiny one, but they do throw a lot more projectile-based things as well as fireballs, so we do need to be mindful of that. But they can actually hit their friendly, well, as friendly as a monster to another monster can be. They will hit friendly fire targets. But the arsonists are definitely a lot less annoying than the infernos. The captain arsonist, though, is a pain in the ass for one particular reason later on in the game. But yeah, you can start to see that our Not being able to carry Zombium is definitely a giant hassle in this one. We do regain health slowly, but not all the way.
Destiny awaits, boys. Let's not keep him waiting.
And since I can't unsee it, you can't either, but the wheels on that truck don't turn whenever it leaves. Just so you're aware. I'm sorry for invading your thoughts with that, but let it be known that those truck wheels do not turn. That's all I could think ever since I first saw it. But yeah, we end up getting attacked by an arsonist up on the roof. Simple enough to deal with. Just dodge the fireballs. And then there are supplies in the room with it. So we're going to jump down from the roof. We do have a phone ringing over here, so we're going to try and get as much backstory as we can.
Every time I tried to show you the right path, he gave you his map with all the shortcuts. I tried to tell you there was no easy way. I hope you listened a little.
But yeah, Carmen, not exactly the happiest with our past decisions. We're still trying to make amends with that by doing the good playthrough, so eventually she will be a bit more gentle with it. But currently, we're probably still sitting around neutral. In the first one, you could actually check the photograph to see what your morality was. In this one, it literally just gives you a meter. So, if you ever want to check your morality and which way that you're leaning, the best way to tell is that meter in the menu, or by your insanity form. Because insanity actually has a custom look depending on which way you're leaning for morality, you actually turn more of a bluish hue and get different abilities for good. And if you're evil, you turn more grotesque and red. Neutral is just like in the prologue, you are like a yellow spiky form. But the good form looks more like Torque himself. So it's kind of like Torque is more in control of his insanity form. Whereas if he's evil, it becomes more and more monstrous.
Yo, over here. Got something for yo, man. Take this. Hope it helps you.
But these fine gentlemen give us a double barrel, and we are definitely going to take that. The double barrel in this game is absolutely worth it. But here we have a morality decision to save this second guy from Copperfield. So we're definitely going to go do that. Get in there and shoot Copperfield to stop him from killing the second guy.
Man, that was close. Why'd you bring that guy in here?
You tried your best, T.
But yeah, indicated that it was a good morality decision. The second guy still isn't too happy, but I mean, it's better than joining his friend there, so we did what we could. You physically cannot save the first guy, but if you save the second guy, it's a good decision. And yeah, he's not entirely happy with how we did it, but we literally couldn't save the second guy, so again, it's a good decision to save the second guy. We can't save the first. But I hope everyone is ready for a rumble, and we do have a revolver over here, which are super powerful in this one. Instead of just like the revolvers, which are the normal handguns in the first one, this revolver in particular fires really powerful, probably Dirty Harry style 44 bullets. So, and if you couldn't tell by now, we only have half the ammo whenever we start out for the double barrel and stuff, but we have 4 empty indicators. You can actually dual wield in this one. So we will be getting dual wielding double barrels instead of just like a normal shotgun. We can actually dual wield 2 sawn-offs, which is pretty cool. Gorgers, in particular, pretty tough, tanky enemies, but they also have a weakness where they will go over to a body on the ground and start eating it. As far as I know, there's not really any buff to them whenever they do it, but it's just something to distract them, so The more bodies on the ground, the less likely that gorgers are to attack you, and the more likely they will try and go and eat a piece. So. But here, it's just kind of a gauntlet before we get into the movie theater. We just have to deal with the slayers as they come. Ammo is a bit more strict in this one, so we definitely have to be a bit more precise with our shots. So, we also do have ammo down the street that we can go and grab, which I will go and do. The sawn-off is good for getting rid of the gorgers, so we can do that. But we do have these boxes around that we can get ammo from. So we're just going to do that to get our Colts back up and stocked. We do want to be very careful of explosions in this one as well. They can absolutely destroy you. So be wary of fire and explosions, because your health can't be restored as well in this one. So you always have to be on the lookout for that. But now we're going to start getting attacked by arsonists, and you can see that they like throwing fireballs and shooting fire trails on the ground. So, classic rule of thumb, never stop moving. Don't make yourself an easy target, especially with arsonists, because fire hurts a lot, just because of the damage over time. But we should be getting pretty close to the end of the gauntlet here, just because the arsonists appear. They are the last thing that we really need to worry about. But then we can refill our Colts at the box again after we deal with the arsonist. And there he did hit me post-mortem, so that kind of sucks. As you can see, the damage over time took like a third of our health. But with that, the theater is going to open and we're going to be on to the next part. So, let me know what you guys think, and have a good one.